The crash that changed everything. The emergency beacon pierced through the silence of the research facility like a needle through silk. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her xenobiology reports, her dark eyes reflecting the amber glow of the alert. Screen. 23 years of studying theoretical extraterrestrial life, and she'd never seen readings like these. Professor, her assistant Marcus called from across the lab, his voice tight with excitement. You need to see this. The object. That crashed in Sector 7. It's not a meteorite. Elena's heart raced as she approached the holographic display. The craft was unlike anything in their databases, sleek, organic curves that seemed to breathe even in its damaged state. But what made her breath catch was the faint biosignature emanating from within. There's someone alive in there, she whispered. The recovery team found him 3 hours later, unconscious but breathing. Captain James Sterling of the Terran Colonial Navy, though that name meant nothing to Elena's people. To the luminary, humans were whispers in ancient texts, beings of legend, who had vanished from the galaxy eons ago. Stories told to children about the flame bearers, creatures of intense emotion and dangerous creativity. When James opened his eyes in the medical bay, Elena was there. She'd been studying his unconscious form for hours, marveling at the reality of what her people considered myth. His hair was dark as space itself, his skin bearing the olive tone of old Earth genetics. But it was his eyes that captured her, green like the forests of her homeworld, but with a depth that seemed to hold entire galaxies. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough but surprisingly gentle. Elena found herself speechless. In all her research, she'd never imagined a human would sound so human, so real, so warm. "You're safe," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're on Ethros Prime. I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez." James tried to sit up, wincing at the movement. "Ethros Prime? Never heard of it. What star system?" "The Luminary constellation," Elena replied, watching his expression carefully. "My people call it the Sanctuary of Eternal Light." The way he looked at her then, with wonder, confusion, and something else she couldn't quite identify, made her heart skip. She'd spent her entire academic career studying the theoretical biology of extinct species, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of James Sterling. "Your people," he said slowly, his eyes taking in her ethereal appearance, the way her silver hair seemed to shimmer with its own light, how her skin held a subtle luminescence. "What are you?" Elena smiled, an expression that transformed her entire face. "I suppose to you we're just as much a legend as you are to us." The legend awakens. The Luminary Council convened in emergency session within hours of James's recovery. Elena stood before the crystalline assembly, her hands trembling as she presented her findings. The circular chamber hummed with bioluminescent energy, its walls alive with the soft glow that gave her people their name. "Counselor Thane," she began, addressing the elder whose beard flowed like liquid starlight. "The genetic markers are unmistakable. He is human, a true descendant of the flame bearers." A ripple of gasps echoed through the chamber. Counselor Lyra, her golden eyes wide with disbelief, leaned forward. "Impossible. The flame bearers were extinguished in the Great Purge 3 millennia ago." "Not extinguished," Elena corrected, her voice growing stronger. "Hidden, scattered, but alive." Meanwhile, in the medical facility, James was struggling with his own revelations. The nurse attending him, a young luminary named Zara, had been kind but clearly terrified. Every time she looked at him, she made small gestures that James recognized as protective wards. "What exactly do your people think I am?" he asked Elena when she returned from the council. Elena sat beside his bed, her presence somehow both calming and electrifying. The legends speak of humans as beings of pure emotion, capable of great love and terrible destruction. They say you could ignite stars with your passion or extinguish them with your rage. James laughed, but it came out hollow. That's quite a reputation. No pressure there. The stories also say, Elena continued, her voice softer now, that humans possess the ability to touch the souls of other beings, to inspire, to heal, to create bonds that transcended physical reality. Their eyes met, and James felt something shift in the air between them. And what do you think, Dr. Vasquez? Do you believe the legends? Elena's luminescent skin seemed to glow brighter. I believe in evidence, Captain Sterling, and the evidence suggests that legends sometimes are just truths waiting to be rediscovered. That night, as James lay in the medical bay gazing out at the twin moons of Ethros Prime, he couldn't shake the feeling that his crash landing wasn't an accident. The navigation logs showed impossible readings, as if something had guided his ship to this exact location. Elena, meanwhile, sat in her private quarters, reviewing footage of their conversation. She'd spent years studying theoretical human behavior, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of James's presence. The way he looked at her, spoke to her, made her feel things she'd never experienced. In the luminary culture, emotions were controlled, measured, channeled through bioluminescent displays. But when she was near James, her light patterns became chaotic, beautiful, and completely beyond her control. Hearts across the void. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of discovery and denial. Elena was assigned as James's cultural liaison, a role that required her to spend increasing amounts of time with him. They walked through the Luminari city, its organic architecture pulsing with life around them. It's beautiful, James said as they stood on an observation platform overlooking the central plaza. Like living inside a jewel, Elena watched him take in the sight. The way the buildings seemed to breathe, how the luminary moved through their city like schools of luminous fish. What's your world like? She asked. James's expression grew distant. Harsh. We learned to survive by fighting, building, taking what we needed. Your people learned to survive by becoming one with their environment. Different evolutionary paths, Elena mused. The Council fears that human nature is inherently destructive. Maybe it can be, James admitted, but it can also be this. He gestured to the space between them, to the way Elena's bioluminescence had begun to pulse in sync with his heartbeat whenever they were close. Neither of them had acknowledged it yet, but the connection was undeniable. Dr. Kai Oren, Elena's research partner, had been watching their interactions with growing concern. A brilliant scientist in his own right, he'd harbored feelings for Elena. For years, feelings that had gone unspoken but not unnoticed. You're playing with fire, he warned Elena one evening as they reviewed data in the lab. Literally, the legends speak of humans consuming everything they touch. Elena's light patterns flared defensively. The legends are just stories, Kai. James is a person, not a force of nature. Is he? Kai's own bioluminescence dimmed with worry. Have you seen how the plants respond to him? How the air itself seems to shimmer when he's emotional. He's affecting our entire ecosystem. It was true. James's presence had begun to change things in subtle ways. The bioluminescent gardens grew brighter, the atmospheric processors worked more efficiently, and the luminari themselves seemed more vibrant when he was near. But whether this was beneficial or dangerous remained unclear. Elena found James that night in the meditation gardens, sitting beneath a canopy of light-bearing vines. His posture was tense, his expression troubled. Kai talked to you, she said, settling beside him. He's not wrong, James replied. I can feel it too, the way this place responds to me. Maybe I should leave. Where would you go? Elena asked. Your ship is beyond repair, and we're the only inhabited system within 50 light years. I could find a way, James said quietly. I won't be responsible for destroying what you've built here. Elena's hand found his, and the touch sent cascades of light through her skin. What if you're not here to destroy anything? What if you're here to help us remember what we've forgotten? What do you mean? The Luminari have achieved perfect harmony, Elena said. But we've lost something in the process. We've forgotten how to dream, how to reach beyond what we know. You make us remember that there's more to existence than just survival. The choice between worlds. The crisis came suddenly, and without warning. A massive solar flare erupted from Ethros Prime's sun, threatening to overwhelm the Luminari's bioengineered atmosphere. The emergency systems, designed to maintain perfect equilibrium, couldn't adapt quickly enough to the chaotic energy patterns. In the command center, Counselor Thane's voice cut through the chaos. All non-essential personnel to the deep shelters. We're losing atmospheric integrity in the outer rings. Elena found herself torn between her duty to her people and her desperate need to find James. She located him in the central plaza, where he stood surrounded by panicking Luminari. "James!" she called out, pushing through the crowd. "We need to get to the shelters." But James wasn't moving toward safety. Instead, he was studying the chaotic light patterns in the sky, his expression intense with concentration. "The flare," he said when Elena reached him. "It's not random. There's a pattern to it, like a resonance frequency." "What are you talking about?" "My ship's logs," James said urgently. "They recorded similar energy signatures near human colonies. We learned to work with stellar storms, not just hide from them." Elena's bioluminescence pulsed with understanding. "You think you can help?" "I think I can try." What followed was the most dangerous and beautiful thing Elena had ever witnessed. James positioned himself at the center of the plaza, his hands pressed against the city's main bioneural interface. As the solar flare's energy crashed over the city, he somehow channeled it, guided it, transformed its chaotic power into something the Luminari systems could absorb. The effect was immediate and stunning. The city's bioluminescence exploded into patterns of incredible complexity and beauty. The atmospheric processors didn't just stabilize, they thrived, creating aurora-like displays that painted the sky in colors that had no names. But the effort cost James dearly. When the crisis passed, he collapsed, his body pushed beyond its limits. Elena caught him as he fell, her own light patterns flaring with emotions she could no longer contain. "James, stay with me." "Did it work?" he whispered, his green eyes struggling to focus. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her luminescent face. "You saved us. You saved everyone." As James recovered in the medical bay, the Luminari city continued to pulse with the new energy patterns he'd helped create. The council convened again, but this time their debate was different. "He is no destroyer," Counselor Lyra declared. "He is what the oldest legends called a bridge builder, one who connects worlds that were meant to be separate." But not everyone was convinced. Counselor Voss, his ancient face carved with skepticism, stood to speak. "One act of heroism does not erase millennia of cautionary tales. The human's very presence has changed us irrevocably. How do we know this change is not the beginning of our end?" Love beyond legend. The debate raged for days, but Elena had stopped listening to the council's arguments. She spent her time with James, watching him recover and marveling at the way his presence had transformed not just their city, but herself. "I've been thinking," James said one evening as they sat in the gardens, now even more vibrant than before, "about what Kai said, about the legends." Elena's light patterns dimmed slightly. "What about them?" "What if they're not warnings?" James suggested. "What if they're instructions?" "I don't understand." James turned to face her fully, his expression serious but hopeful. The legends say humans are beings of pure emotion, capable of great creation and destruction. But they also say we have the ability to touch other souls, to create bonds that transcend physical reality. Elena's bioluminescence began to pulse in response to his words. "James, I love you, Elena," he said simply, "not because you're beautiful or brilliant or because you saved me. I love you because when I'm with you, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like everything that brought me here, the crash, the legends, the fear, it was all just the universe's way of bringing us together." Elena's response was beyond words. Her entire being erupted in cascades of light, patterns of such complexity and beauty that they seemed to carry meaning beyond language. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "In our culture, we have a word, solarith. It means the light that calls to light. I thought it was just poetry until I met you." Their kiss was witnessed by the entire city as Elena's emotional display triggered sympathetic responses in every luminary within miles. The bio-neural networks carried the resonance of their connection throughout the settlement, creating a symphony of light that had never been seen before. Dr. Kai Oren, watching from his laboratory, finally understood. The legends weren't about destruction. They were about transformation. Humans didn't consume other species. They catalyzed them, helped them evolve beyond their limitations. When the council reconvened, Councillor Thane's voice carried a new authority. "The evidence is clear. The human James Sterling is not our destroyer. He is our catalyst. The question now is not whether he should stay, but how we can learn from what he's brought us." Elena and James stood before the assembly, their hands intertwined, their connection visible in the synchronized patterns of light that played across Elena's skin. "We propose," Elena said, "a new kind of partnership, not just between our species, but between our ways of understanding the universe. The Luminari have mastered harmony, but we've forgotten growth. Humans have mastered change, but sometimes they've forgotten balance. Together," James added, "we might find something neither of our people could achieve alone." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. James Sterling would be granted citizenship on Ethros Prime, becoming the first human to officially join Luminari society in over 3,000 years. As they left the council chamber, Elena's light patterns settled into a new configuration, one that incorporated elements of chaos and order, stability and change. James had indeed transformed her, but she had transformed him as well. His restless energy had found focus, his wandering spirit had found home. In the years that followed, their love story became a new legend, not of destruction, but of the beauty that could emerge when two different kinds of light chose to shine together.